of videos I make on this channel where I expose multi-level marketing schemes and talk about business gurus like Grant Cardone, Rachel Hollis, Tony Robbins, Jen Sincero, the self-help and business guru types of the world, I get a lot of people in the comments that say, oh my god, I can't believe I used to follow this person. I feel so stupid. In retrospect, I can't believe I was ever that stupid to follow this person or fall for this company or whatever. And I always tell people, you don't need to feel bad about it. It is not your fault. They specifically targeted you in a way to manipulate you, and it doesn't matter how smart you are. We are all susceptible to falling for these things. So today, I'm going to tell you the story of the one self-help guru type that I fell for his whole shtick, hook, line, and sinker until I was in my mid-20s and learned about all of the terrible things that were actually going on with him. And that is a man by the name of Dr. Phil.
Hit you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago. You guys asked for it.
What's up, my fellow small business supporters? I'm Savvy. Welcome back to Savvy Writes Books. This is the channel where we talk about books and business, and a lot of times on this channel we expose some of the grifters, the fake self-help gurus, the people out here who are, trying to scam us without giving us that real advice that we need in our lives, because a lot of times that real advice is either going to come from a licensed professional or from, people that we actually trust that know us in our specific situations, but there is an entire self-help industry that is out here trying to make money capitalizing on people's insecurities. I'm glad you're here with me for this video today, but before we get too deep into today's topic, I first have to give a quick shout out and a thank you to today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Magic Spoon, which is a high-protein, low-carb brand of cereal that has quickly become my favorite during the year of 2022. It's fall, y'all! I've talked so many times on this channel about how fall is my favorite time of year. And during this autumn, I've been enjoying some flavors of Magic Spoon cereals and cereal bars that remind me of the fall. For example, my favorite flavor of the cereal is cinnamon, which pairs nicely with an apple cider scented candle in the morning. Meanwhile, one of the new cereal bar flavors is s'mores, which I can eat while I'm taking my dog out on some nice long walks. The leaves are falling, the weather is cool and breezy, and I'm eating a s'mores bar on a walk with my dog. I love it. What I love the most, though, is that Magic Spoon products are all high protein, which I need with how often I go to the gym, but also low in sugar. And guys, when it's Halloween time, I want to eat a ton of Halloween candy, so I've definitely been wanting to cut back on sugar in my other meals. A serving of Magic Spoon cereal has 13 to 14 grams of protein, 4 to 5 net grams of carbs, about 140 calories, and 0 grams of sugar, with the exception of the honey nut flavor, which is made with real honey and thus has 1 gram of sugar. Cereal bars, which come in flavors like cookies and cream, cocoa peanut butter, cinnamon roll, and s'mores, have 1 gram of sugar, 10 grams of protein, 4 net grams of carbs, and 130 calories per bar. All cereals and bars are keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. If you're interested in trying Magic Spoon cereal for yourself, take a look in my description below where you can click my link and use my code SAVVY for $5 off your first order. On their site, you can build your very own variety box by choosing from best-selling flavors like Fruity, which is one of my favorites, Frosted, Peanut Butter, Cookies and Cream, and Maple Waffle, and other flavors like Honey Nut, Blueberry Muffin, and Cinnamon Roll, which is my other favorite. And you can add some cereal bars to your variety box as well. Magic Spoon ships to Canada and the UK in addition to throughout the US. Additionally, your purchase comes with a 100% happiness guarantee, so if for any reason you aren't happy with your purchase, they will refund you your money, no questions asked. So go ahead and check out that link in my description below, or go to magicspoon.com/savvy and get $5 off your order today. Thank you again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring today's video. Thank you so much for sponsoring my video. Additionally, thank you so much to all of my Patreon supporters for continuing to support this channel and make this channel what it is and keep, making it possible for me to put out more and more videos for you guys. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. I used to think that Dr. Phil was okay. I used to think that he was not like the other self-help grifters because in my mind, I was like, okay, Dr. Phil has a PhD in psychology. He was a licensed psychologist for a while. He was practicing. He had a degree. He is licensed. He can do these things, right? Well, as it turns out, bringing people on TV for these things, promoting things that you're paid to promote beyond just actually listening to individual people and then pushing those people off to other psychologists and often to scammy and abusive troubled teen camps. Turns out that those things were wildly unethical and that Dr. Phil hasn't had his license to practice in years. Now, I have talked about Dr. Phil before, but never on this channel. On my second channel, Your Morning Guru, which is linked in the description below, that's my morning live stream channel where I stream every day at 7 a.m. Central Time. You'll want to subscribe to that if you want to talk about similar topics in a more casual format where there's a live stream and we're having a conversation back and forth the whole time. It's very fun. But on that show, we often do themed weeks where we will follow a certain guru or a certain author or a certain trend or format or challenge or something for a week. And we did a week on that show on Dr. Phil. And that's where I started to really get into all of the scandals. I knew that he was unethical before then because I'd seen some other YouTubers doing videos about him, exposing some of the weird things that he'd been involved in, exposing some of the lack of ethics. I've watched two videos in particular that really opened my eyes to Dr. Phil. One is by the YouTuber Big Joel, who did a video about how at the end of the day, Dr. Phil's advice isn't really about what's going to be best for your mental health, but is more so about what's going to make you a productive member of society in a purely revenue generating kind of way, that at the end of the day, his advice all tends to center on making more money for yourself and surviving in a capitalist system, I guess. I thought that that video was really good. And then I also watched a video by the YouTuber 16Leo that showed how Dr. Phil was exploiting people who were dealing with abuse issues and how he was willing to let ethics go in favor of getting ratings on TV and making the most dramatic story possible. And after those, I started to get a little disillusioned. So when we did that week on Your Morning Guru following Dr. Phil, I was saddened but not particularly surprised to learn that Dr. Phil back in the day had gotten into a big controversy with one of the biggest multi-level marketing companies of all time, Amway, or as I like to call it, Scamway. A lot of people call it that because I think Amway is a massive scam. And as it turns out, Dr. Phil might not be much less of a scammer himself. So today we are going to talk about Dr. Phil's involvement with Amway in the past, the lawsuit that he ended up in, and that whole scandal. But first, let me tell you guys my story real quick of how I used to be a Dr. Phil fan, why that was, and why I had to eventually dissolve my emotional attachment to him. When I was 12 years old, I had Dr. Phil playing on the TV in the background. This was around the time that Dr. Phil's show was just getting popular. It was 2004-ish, and his show had been on the air for a couple of years at that point, maybe 2-ish years. Before that, Dr. Phil had been a regular guest on Oprah's show, and he is part of what we will be calling the Oprah Cinematic Universe. In Friday's video, we're going to be talking about Dr. Oz, another grifter who came from Oprah's Cinematic Universe as well. So Dr. Phil, I had seen him when he was on Oprah in the middle of the day. I thought that he was interesting to listen to, so I had his show on in the background. And I heard him interviewing someone on the show who had OCD. Now, at the time, I had been starting to develop some weird symptoms that I had been plaguing me for about 3-4 years at that point, and I didn't know what was going on. Sometimes I just really worried that I was going insane. There were times that, like, I didn't know if I could talk to anyone about these things because I was really worried of coming off as, like, just absolutely insane and nobody understanding what I was talking about. But I regularly had these issues with, like, I needed to look at things at certain angles, otherwise I'd be filled with this intense stress. I'd have these random intrusive thoughts that took over me saying that, like, if you don't tap this at the right angle, then your whole family's gonna... I'd have things that started to make me panic like that, and they would just be constantly taking over my brain all the time. And I didn't know what to do about that. And at the time, I'd heard of obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, but at the time, I thought that it was mostly a thing for people who were clean. I'd heard it being associated with people who were really germophobic, people who like to, you know, obsessively wash their hands or clean surfaces a lot, and I was never a particularly clean person. I'd always been kind of messy, disorganized. I never had to, like, order order my stuff in a specific order, or I never felt the need to like categorize things in specific ways, which is often a symptom that's associated with that. That had never plagued me. I had never worried about my hands not being clean or things like that. None of that ever crossed my mind. But when I heard Dr. Phil playing in the background, he was interviewing this woman who had OCD, and some of the symptoms she was describing sounded so much like what I was experiencing, and I never realized that that could be part of it as well. So on this show, I'm suddenly like, oh my god, what I'm experiencing is like just a thing that people have sometimes, and that's okay. It took me a long time from there to actually get medication to help me with it, but that was the first step in kind of starting to uncover what might be going on with me and realizing that there is actually a name for this condition. This is part of, you know, the neurodivergent umbrella. This is a legitimately medically recognized condition, and I can start getting treatment for it in the future, or I can at least start learning more about it. From there, I became a little bit attached to the Dr. Phil show. It was the show where I first learned potentially what could be wrong with me, and from there, I was like, this show could be really beneficial. You have a licensed, or formerly licensed, I didn't know that yet, but you have a psychologist with a degree sitting down with people, forcing them to face their emotions head on. And the way I viewed things was, you know, a lot of times in the world, it's easy to run away from our problems. Growing up, I was always a really confrontational person when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, even as an adult. It's always gotten me in trouble that I tend to say what's on my mind. I tend to tell people exactly what I'm thinking and feeling, and that's led to conflict because I don't always notice what exactly the social cues are that I need to be reading the room with, and I always thought it was good to open yourself up, share your emotions, communicate directly with people, and here was this guy on TV who was forcing other people to do that. I thought that was fantastic. So I had become a full-on Dr. Phil stan, okay? I was a huge fan of Dr. Phil, but that was before I learned about some of the controversies that he was involved in. I am now a deconstructed Dr. Phil fan. I do not support Dr. Phil anymore. I think the man is a scammer. So when we ended him on Your Morning Guru, at that point I was already starting to hate Dr. Phil. I was starting to think about how he was unethical, how he was abusing his power in the position of being this person people look to as a psychologist, but had a lot of these skeletons in the closet of his own, how he had pushed medical misinformation on people. And then, during that week, we uncovered Dr. Phil's former involvement with Amway back in 2005. A lot of people probably don't remember this as him being involved with Amway because it was never advertised that way. But Dr. Phil pushed dietary supplements that were found to be faulty that ended up being produced by Nutrilite, Amway's parent company. So let's take a look into this scandal. All right, so this article is called $10.5 million Settlement in Dr. Phil Diet Plan Suit. Unhappy customers who sued Dr. Phil McGraw over his now discontinued Shape Up diet plan have reached a $10.5 million settlement agreement with TV psychologist and attorney for the plaintiff said. So this article is from a long time ago. It's from September of 2006, which if you guys can believe it, that's now 16 years ago. This article is old enough to drive in most US states. Isn't that wild? That also means that people born in 2006 are 16 now. Time goes by so quick and it drives me wild, you guys. Unhappy customers who sued Dr. Phil McGraw over his now discontinued Shape Up diet plan have reached a $10.5 million settlement. The lawsuit, filed in 2004 on behalf of 3 disappointed consumers, claimed McGraw defrauded fans with his year-long venture into the diet supplement business, making false statements about the pills. McGraw has denied the allegations and admitted no wrongdoing or misrepresentation in the settlement. Henry H. Rossbacher, an attorney for the plaintiffs, said thousands of eligible customers nationwide will be able to choose either replacement products or a small cash reward as part of the settlement. It wasn't immediately clear how much each person could receive. Okay. So people who were like, okay, these diet supplements were fraudulent, they weren't real, Dr. Phil, you're scamming us with these shady diet supplements that, you know, we trusted you, you were supposed to be a doctor, Dr. Phil, okay? What are the options of recourse they have? Well, a fund would be set up with $6 million in Nutrilite vitamins and $4.5 million in cash. So, when it says a $10.5 million settlement, that doesn't mean that people are actually, that the consumers are going to see that money. That means that some of that money, over half of it, is in Nutrilite vitamins. Now, if you guys remember Nutrilite, we've talked about Nutrilite on this channel before. What was Nutrilite? It was a multi-level marketing company founded in the 1940s, which eventually was bought by Amway and became part of the Amway umbrella. So Nutrilite, you've got Amway, right? The biggest MLM company, kind of like the big mob boss of all the MLM companies. That's Amway. And Amway has all these different arms under it. It has Nutrilite, it has Quickstar, it has all these different types of companies, because Amway wants to be the company that produces everything. They want to be the company store like we had back in like coal mining towns and company towns back in the days where we lived in that dystopia, and it sounds like Amazon wants to do things like that again in the future, so hopefully we never live in that dystopia again, but it's becoming more and more likely every day. Regardless, Amway wanted to do it too, right? Amway's over here like, they want to produce everything you could need for your life. They want to provide you with all your food, all your vitamins, all your medicines, all your essentials, your paper towels, all the things you could need to have to replenish, all of your replenishables that you need for your everyday life, everything you'd get at the grocery store. Amway wants to be that for you, and they also want you to set up an account to be an independent business owner, or IBO as they call it. But really, you're not an independent business owner because they set the products, they set the pricing. You are beholden to their commission structure, so you're not really a business owner. And then to really make money, you're encouraged to recruit a downline, make money off of their commission, and then after a while, we know how pyramid schemes work, right? You have to pay to join the company, and then someone else pays to join under you. Over time, the population of the earth is depleted, or at the very least, the population of people who would be your market as end customers and not just other people in the company recruited as your own competition. Amway's a scam! Do not join Amway. Check out my video with Laurie, one of my now friends who has been a longtime viewer of this channel. She reached out to me. She used to be involved in Amway, and she was involved in 27 MLM companies, said that by far Amway was the one she lost the most money in, and it was the most cult-like. So I'll link that video up in the cards. Make sure to watch that video. Anyway, we do not support Amway. So Amway owns Nutrilite. Nutrilite is like the vitamin supplements arm of the Amway business. Amway is also has been involved and connected with the Trump administration. If you guys remember, Betsy DeVos, who was the Secretary of Education, is from the DeVos family, including, you know, Rich DeVos, the guy, you remember the DeVos family, how they founded Amway and all that? Anyway, this whole thing is bigger than any of us could hope to take down, and Dr. Phil was promoting these products to his customers. Part of the settlement is providing vitamins from Amway. Insurance will cover the cost of the settlement, and McGraw will have no personal obligation to contribute to the fund. So Dr. Phil loses nothing. His consumers just get more scammy vitamins from a scammy company, and he suffers no consequences. McGraw, 56, jumped into the lucrative weight loss market in mid-2003 with a campaign that included advice books, a primetime special with Katie Couric on obesity and dieting, and his Shape Up with Dr. McGraw products. Shape Up shakes, bars, and multivitamins made by Irving, Texas-based CSA Nutraceuticals were sold in supermarkets in Target, Walmart, and elsewhere. The plan called for 22 pills daily at $120 a month. That's a lot of pills to swallow. CSA Nutraceuticals agreed to stop making the supplements in early 2004 as it faced a Federal Trade Commission investigation into false advertising concerns. We love when the FTC gets involved. According to the label, the pills contain scientifically researched levels of ingredients that can help you change your behavior to take control of your weight. The original 3 plaintiffs sought class action status for the lawsuit last year. Rossbacher said consumers who can establish by affidavit or proof of purchase that they bought Shape Up supplements before July 1st may be eligible for the settlement's benefits, which isn't necessarily money, but could be Nutrilite vitamins from Amway. Wow. So here's an article from Detroit Metro Times called Slimming the Amway. Always love puns here. When news hit read that Dr. Phil McGraw, the TV shrink who got his big break by being a pal of Oprah, was accused of being part of a scam involving fraudulent diet products, we weren't all that surprised. The guy always struck us as a bit icky, you know? So this is from 2006. So if only in 2006, by then I had realized what a scammer Dr. Phil is, I would have saved a lot of time not watching his show, though it is fun to play drinking games too. No matter how much he professed to want to help people, there was always a sense that the number one person Dr. Phil wanted to give a boost to was Dr. Phil. That's a common thing we see with these business, lifestyle, self-help gurus too, that they claim to want to help you, but in reality, they mostly want to help their own career. It's a marketing tactic above all else. As it turns out, however, this little notice item has a significant Michigan connection with Amway. You know, the multi-level marketers of Soap and Hope that was formerly headed by gubernatorial candidate Dick DeVos and co-founded by his father, playing a key role in the whole shady deal. The Shape Up diet supplements Dr. Phil helped promote and peddle in his chrome-domed visage was featured on the packages. Were pushed with the claim that the products contained scientifically researched levels of ingredients that can help you change your behavior to take control of your weight. What a weird advertising claim to make. Scientifically researched levels of ingredients. Could you be more vague than that? The suit against Dr. Phil and the company that actually sold the product, CSA Nutraceuticals of Irving, Texas, alleged fraud and claimed that there was no credible scientific evidence that these products had any effect on a person's behavior. Which is probably for the best, considering a pill that's altering your behavior is kind of scary, right? I don't know, I think it is. Here's how scientific the whole thing was. Purchasers of Shape Up products, how Dr. Phil, don't you think? The commanding tone, the exclamation points. This article is very biased, but I'm enjoying it. It seems like it's kind of a local paper type of thing. Determined which supplements were right for them by identifying their body types. Pear-shaped people took one formula, while those who looked more like apples took another. How could you not believe in a product like that? Dividing things by body shape really only works for clothes. Like, if you're gonna buy clothes, I love clothing stores that instead of just having like male and female and then sizes, that actually just separate clothes by body shape, because gender and size alone don't tell you where it's going to fit or how it's going to fit. So when clothes companies separate clothes by body shape, I am here for it. When pills do that, I'm not quite sure, okay? New accounts of the $10.5 million settlement didn't mention Amway, the controversial company co-founded by the candidate's father in 1958, or the umbrella company Alticor, which Dick created in 2000 when he was running the show there. Coverage of the class action lawsuit filed in Los Angeles focused mostly on the role played by the bombastic Dr. Phil, who has denied any wrongdoing connected to his promotion of a now discontinued line of dietary supplements. What caught some eyes, including those of the tipster who clued us into all this, were the terms of the settlement. Pears and apples foolish enough to buy Dr. Phil's line could opt to receive Nutrilite vitamins in lieu of cash. Those supplements, it turns out, are manufactured by Amway and its sister company Quickstar. Huh? The answer to that guttural query can be found not in news accounts, at least not any that we saw, but rather the settlement agreement posted on the website shapeupsettlement.com. There, it's revealed that neither Dr. Phil nor CSA were the ones ordered to shell out, but rather Amway parent company Alticor. According to that document, Alticor will provide $4.5 million in cash and $6 million in Nutrilite products to disgruntled users of Shape Up. The product was made by Amway the whole time. Dr. Phil was selling Amway diet supplements. About Amway's involvement, Moore wrote, "I think that if any reporter digs, we all need to be right up front and proud without waving the Amway flag. The Amway flag is a two-edged sword for both of us. We have reputation problems that are common in the direct selling industry." Guys, remember, this was 2006. This was long before the anti-MLM movement really took off, which was more around like 2016 or so. So this was like 10 years before the anti-MLM movement really got going. A lot of, people now are still getting roped into MLMs, but there wasn't as much public discussion about this because 2006 was like right after YouTube had started as a company, and YouTube was not owned by Google yet. It was just a company where people posted weird videos with like surrealist humor in them and little skits like that, where if you had 10 subscribers, you were famous, right? It was a different world back then. This was before most social media was popular, before a lot of social media companies had even been formed yet, and there wasn't any like large online discourse about the dangers that MLMs and direct selling companies pose to people. There had still been lawsuits about these things. There had still been, lots of controversy with people losing money and trying to speak out, but I just love this. Reputation problems common in the direct selling industry. I wonder why that is. We absolutely do not want that to attach to you in any way. Moreover, the same psychotics in our business and on the web that create our reputation problems will use powerful communication tools and undue influence to damage our businesses. I guess that makes me psychotic, because I have full intention of damaging Amway's brand as much as possible. DeVos had resigned as president of Altiquen a year before Shape Up hit stores. One source familiar with the case says that, considering the size of the deal, worth an estimated $20 million or more to the Michigan-based company, and the lead time required to put something like that together, it's almost certain DeVos would have had to have signed off on it before leaving the company. One thing for certain is that Amway sure is a sword that can cut both ways for the candidate. It's made his family fantastically wealthy. Forbes magazine previously reported that the senior DeVos is worth about $3.5 billion, and this was 16 years ago. And that the junior Dick, the junior Dick's wealth is estimated to be about $500 million. The company's success is in large part what allows DD, double D over here, Dick DeVos, I imagine, double D, to tout his skills as a businessman as he stumps to become the state's CEO. Dicks and double Ds, that's Amway. But there are also many ardent haters of the company. What's up? That's me! That's me! So, unfortunately, as it turns out, Dr. Phil is not who I thought he was. It was obvious to everyone else, but I kept defending this man because I was like, no, I believe that we should be upfront about our emotions and talk about our mental health on TV in front of everyone, because I think that that's a good way to live life. Turns out it was never a good way to live life. I'll just keep talking about my mental health publicly on the internet. Were you guys surprised to learn that Dr. Phil had an involvement with Amway? Let me know in the comments below. I was not surprised, but I was disappointed. Just like your mommy, I'm disappointed, Dr. Phil. I will see you guys again soon, though. On Friday, we're going to be covering another member of the Oprah Cinematic Universe, a man named Dr. Oz, another person who should not be a doctor. I will see you guys then. In the meantime, keep on supporting small businesses and stay far away from Amway. Bye!
Hit you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago. You guys asked for it.